I welcome you back to Global Education Zone, and in this video today we'll be talking about what? Clauses. Now clauses, there are different types of clauses, but what exactly is a clause? In English grammar, we call a clause a group of words that have a finite verb. Now those group of words, they have a verb, and that finite verb is a verb that has a specific capacity to stand on its own without the help of an auxiliary verb. So what that means is that basically a finite verb is a verb that is the main verb or did not need an auxiliary verb to work with it. Now in another episode of this series, I'll talk about auxiliary verbs. You can wait so for me to release the video on that, but for now let's just talk about clauses. Now a clause is a group of words, as I mentioned earlier, with the presence of a finite verb. Now this group of words, this clause, is often make grammatical sense. In the previous episode I talked about phrases, right? But phrases, the one property of phrases is that phrases don't often make complete grammatical sense, but clauses often make complete grammatical sense. So and after clauses, when you go a step higher into the ranking of grammatical meaning, you have what's known as sentence. So clauses, they often make grammatical sense, and they are divided into two types. There's the main clause and the subordinate clause. The main clause is also known as the superordinate clause. The subordinate clause is also known as the auxiliary clause or the helping clause. Now this main clause, you can also call it a dependent clause. Then the main clause can be called an independent clause. So depending on which name you think is suitable. Now basically a subordinate clause or a main clause or an independent clause is basically a clause that stands on its own and makes complete grammatical sense. For example, if I say, and those clauses, they often contain, they often behave like simple sentences. If I say I saw him, now this group of words I saw him, it contains a finite verb saw, so it's as such it becomes a clause. So, and apart from the fact that it contains a finite verb, it also makes complete grammatical sense. So that is why it's called a main clause. But moving on to the next type of clause, we have the dependent clause or subordinate clause. Now this subordinate clause, they contain finite verbs, but they don't always make complete grammatical sense. For example, if I say I saw him because he was there, now that's because he was there also contains a finite verb, and that finite verb is also known as because he was. So that tells us the tense. That was tells us the tense of the sentence. So if I say because he was there, or rather if I say because he was standing there, now that standing there is kind of like the finite verb which describes the tense of the actions, and that because he was standing there is known as a dependent clause. The reason why it's called a dependent clause is that if I remove that I saw him and say only because he was there, it won't make complete grammatical sense. It will make sense to some extent, but not completely. So that is why it's known as a dependent clause. Now those dependent clauses, they are often preceded by because, therefore, and they often function as adverbial clauses. So you can watch out for those. Anytime you see because it is often characterized by adverbial clause of reason, or adverbial clause of adverbial phrase of reason, so and so on and so forth. That is the dependent clause. Now this main clause and dependent clause, there are different ways we can apply them. We can apply them as nominal clause, we can apply them as adverbial clause, and we can apply them as adjectival clause. Basically, a nominal clause is a group of words that contains a finite verb and they perform the functions of a noun. Now there are different examples of nominal clause. For example, if I say the boy who was standing there has gone. Now that's the boy who was standing there. That whole group of cluster of sentences is called a nominal clause. Why? Because it gives us the tense of the actions and it's a finite verb. So now it contains a finite verb. Now then we have the adjectival clause. It's also a group of words which contains a finite verb and performs the function of what? An adjective. Now we also have the adverbial clause. It's a group of words which contain a finite verb and perform the functions of an adverb. So those are the three major classes of clauses, and hopefully in the nearest coming videos we'll be talking about this in more detail. So thank you for watching.